Today we're talking about fact finding, one of my favorite subjects. As a manager, one thing that I know I wish my guys got a little bit better at each day. And from there, we're going to start talking about some trial closes. And today what we're going to be doing is we're going to talk about why the fact finding is, in my opinion, the one step that if you can spend an extra minute or two or an extra 10 minutes or 20 minutes, if you spend more time in the fact finding, it's going to save you some more pain, some more headache, more wasted time during the presentation. If you're on the right product at the right time with the right customer and you're talking about the right things, the job is not that hard because you're probably representing a product that's really good. You probably have a great service. It's probably offered at a great price point. So all we're going to be talking about is some little tiny tweaks that you can make to the current process, make you more efficient, less effort, less damage. And in my opinion, the fact finding is the step that makes everything afterwards a lot easier. So that's what we're going to start with for today. So number one point when it comes to fact finding, we're going to talk about 3 simple tasks. Number one, in my opinion, the first point that you should be jotting down is it's probably the most important step in the process. That's the first thing to jot down. Fact finding is the number one resource when you're presenting a product to a customer. And if it's not important to you, it needs to be. If it's not important to you, you're not going to spend time getting better at it. You're not going to identify better ways. I have a phrase with my guys. I've got 17, 18 guys now. And when we role play every single morning at 8:30 a.m., the number one phrase that comes out of my mouth as the guy that's overseeing them is, hey, I need you to say that same thing, but say that better. How can you say the same thing better with your customers? And we're going to go over some good phrases here that you can say with the fact finding. Rob, when you're dealing with the customer, we were just talking about this a minute ago. What's your go-to fact finding question straight out of the gates?
I mean, straight out of the gates is what problem you're trying to solve.
Perfect. Why that one?
Why that one? Because that's usually the main one. I mean, there's only one reason why somebody would call me.
And what's that?
They've got a problem that they want to have solved. They've got something on their minds that they want to solve. So the first question is usually, hey, so why'd you call me today? What's happening in your business that I could help you with, that our company could help you with? Let's talk. And then I let them talk. Then I want to know, because now I'm trying to get the truth, the reality. What is it for them that they're trying to solve every day?
Yes. So this fact finding. So the first thing is, okay, now you're in communication. So if you're doing this over the phone, you're over the phone. The first 2 minutes is, the pleasantries, the quick meet and greet. If you're doing this in person, somebody shows up to your business, somebody walks in the door, shake their hands, introduce yourself. Hi, my name's Todd. What can I get you information on? If there's no initial pushback from the greeting, like I'm just looking or we're not interested, we're not buying, as long as there's none of that, then you slide straight into the fact finding. Within the first 5 minutes, those questions must be asked.
It's fast.
Right? Quick. Hey, what problem are you trying to solve? Hey, excellent. My name's Todd. Why'd you hit the website? Hey, why'd you hit the website today? What do you like best about your current situation? What do you like least about your current situation? Tell me about the phone that's sitting in your pocket right now, because right now we're in a Sprint wireless store, right? We could be on a retail showroom floor. Somebody's looking at furniture. Hey, tell me about your current setup that you have right now inside your home. Tell me about your dining set. And you're basically, the goal of the fact finding is you want them to puke on you. Mm-hmm. The end result of a good fact-finding session is they should do 80% of the talking, and you should be doing 20% of the talking. There's those old books, those sales books that talk about salespeople having one mouth and 2 ears. This is a good time to be using those 2 ears and doing a lot less talking.
And that was something that you told me to do, I think maybe 10 months ago, 8 or 10 months ago. I wasn't really doing a good job of fact finding.
Yeah.
Because you'd ask me, like, what's he trying to solve? I'm like,
branding.
Branding. And you're like, well, what is he really trying to solve? So for me, it's, it's super important.
Yeah. So, I mean, you could walk up, if you're a salesperson, I mean, the managers are probably sitting in the room like, yes, thank you, Todd, for talking about this. The salespeople are probably like, okay, well, tell me a little bit more about that, Todd. Why is it so important? Well, it's important because it's going to tell you they basically, in this one step, if you guys can write this down, number one, it's the most important step in my opinion. Number two, they should be puking all over you during this phase. This is before you talk about what you're selling, before your service, and you want to be very interested in this customer at this point. It should be 80% them talking, 20% you asking questions, and the way that you know you did a good job is they spent a good amount of time just telling you about all their problems. You should have a really good idea of what kind of buyer they are. You should know if they're qualified or not qualified by the end of this, and they're going to go on a lot of different tangents if you do a good job. If I could actually start coming up with new questions to ask my customers. If you can't come up with better ways to do your current fact-finding situation, you need to keep watching this material over and over again until you find the most effective questions that constantly are unlocking the customer. I still, 3 years later, I'm still trying to find better fact-finding questions to get one step further in the deal. What do you like best? What do you like least? The last time you purchased a set of knives, where'd you get them from? How much did you pay for them? How often are you using your current situation? If you could change one thing about your current provider, what would that one thing be? What's your number one fact-finding question?
The first question I always ask since I do credit card processing,
Good.
I ask them, do you have credit card processing?
That's your number one go-to?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So how can you ask that how can you ask that one question better? Same question. How can you ask it better?
What do you like about the credit card processing you have now?
Okay, good. What's another way to say that better?
What's the one thing or your dominant motive in getting the credit card processing you have now? What was your number one motivating factor?
Okay, good. Do you see how this could require a little bit of time and a little bit of practice and a little bit of attention?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You see how it's worthy of a little bit of role play? Just this one subject?
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Are you selling for First Data?
No, I'm not.
Okay, cool. So what's your question?
Yeah, so, one objection I get a lot, I cold call. I wrote down my number one objection. The top objection that comes up is that the owner is never here.
Amen.
So I call like restaurants. Yeah.
Amen. Of course. Why would he be there? He's the owner.
Right.
He shouldn't even be there. If he's got money, he probably is not there all the time. If he's there all the time, he probably doesn't have a lot of money. So what's your question?
I guess I had to handle that objection.
Perfect. Here's how you handle the objection. You got to do some recon. We call this recon. Recon means before you make that call, because if you're doing this in person or over the phone, and if you just walk in and you're just asking for the owner, you just basically red flag yourself as a cold caller salesperson that doesn't know anything about this business. So the one tip of advice that I could give you or anybody else that's in that scenario where there's this mysterious decision maker is Google search. Okay, for you, if you're selling to businesses and restaurants and different types of small companies, I would just Google search owner of Bob's Pizza. There's going to be a press release. There's going to be some article. There's going to be a Better Business Bureau link, and it's going to have him as the registered owner. So when you make the cold call, you don't have to walk in saying, "Hey, is the owner available?" You walk in confidently. You say, "Hey, my name's so-and-so from Credit Card Merchant Processing Company. I'm here to speak with John, the owner." And that one little step, that extra little homework in advance is going to save you a lot of time and a lot of trouble when you're sitting there trying to find this mysterious owner. You got to find his name online first. LinkedIn's a great resource. Facebook is a great resource. If it's a restaurant, you can use Yelp. And then you just got to spend a few minutes trying to find out who is this guy and drop his name when you walk in the business. Does that help?
Yeah, perfect. Thanks.
Cool. Have you ever done that before?
I've actually never done that.
Amen. Let's roll, man.
Hey, Todd, how are you doing?
I'm doing excellent, man. What's your number one fact-finding question when you're about to pitch a deal?
Well, the first thing I ask them is, hey, we're a market research company, right? So we help clients get more insight on what is happening in their market, business, how can they grow business. So my first question is, look, my number one goal is to make sure that you're successful, and that's the only way we will be successful, right? Tell me, how can we help you become more successful? What is it that we can do to help you become more successful?
Good. I love that, man. I love that one. How can you say that better?
I'm still thinking. Well, maybe I can say that we've been helping, companies like XYZ getting access to the inside and, growing the business by 20% or 30%, maybe give you a big juicy claim. That's what I probably learned from your sessions and other sessions.
Cool, man.
What can we do to replicate that for you, or how can we address that pain or challenge that you have?
Perfect, man. I want you to come up with 5 brand new questions, good ones that you spent some time thinking about, saying the same thing you're saying. Write out. Here's your practical exercise from this event. Okay, here's your homework. What are your current questions that you're always using? Step 1, write them down. What do I say to unlock this customer? How do I find out their problems? And if they don't have any problems, then you know that they don't have any problems and you're still trying to make a sale. That's when you shift to the second type of customer, which is make me fall in love with something. If they don't have a problem, you got to make them fall in love. So you got to jot down your first exercises, write out all your questions that you're using today and your exercises to ask those questions better. It might take you a little bit of time to come up with it, but what's your question for today?
Yeah, so my question was, it was just the same question. So is there any better way to do that than if they're not opening up? Or is it too juicy to ask these kind of questions? Hey, how can I help you become more successful? Is it more cheesy, or does it really sound fair? Sometimes I use it, sometimes and I'm not so consistent with that. So any advice that you have?
I would do is do that exercise that I just said where you write out all the questions you have now. It's going to do 2 things for you. It's going to tell you that you have either A, you don't really have a set of questions that you always ask, and that's going to be a problem because you're kind of being random if you don't have an immediate list to jot down. The second thing it's going to do is if you have an immediate list is it's going to let you know that maybe they're elementary questions that you're asking to a sophisticated buyer. So if you want to get a really good answer, you've got to ask a really good question. If you ask an okay question, he's going to give you some okay answers. So you're either going to find out really fast that you don't have a lot of good fact-finding material, and it's going to be a kind of this exposure to a new problem that you have in your business. You can solve it by going through the fact-finding course in the system. And if you do have a good list, then you might be wanting to find better ways of asking that question for your intelligent buyers.
Sounds good.
Okay. Hey, the last time you did something on social media, what was the one factor that had the biggest effect on you making a decision? The last time somebody sold you advertising, what was the 1 or 2 things that made the biggest difference from you saying yes versus you saying no? The last time you decided to buy that iPhone, was it because of the monthly payment? Was it because of the financing options? Was it because of the color? What was the main factor in your decision-making process when you bought that last phone? Things like that. So hopefully that helps.
Oh, it really. I really appreciate it.
Perfect, man. Good luck to you, okay? Excellent. So we're leaving this fact-finding land conversation. I call this fact-finding land in our office. So when I'm teaching my guys, we'll talk about prospecting land and generating appointments. We'll talk about this selling land where we're in the sales process. My favorite course is, just teaching people how to fact-find. But if we're done with this piece of the conversation, the last thing I want to talk about before we wrap up, and we do have Jesse. What is your number one fact-finding question, sir?
So I would say my number one fact-finding question is, so I kind of go from a different perspective. I work at a financial firm.
Okay.
One of the things that we sell a lot of is life insurance.
Good.
So if there's like a young couple, I'll kind of just ask them, I'll say, what do you want to happen when you die? And they'll say, well, what do you mean? And then I'll just kind of go, like, imagine it's the day after you die. What do you want to happen? Do you want your kids to be able to go to the same school? Do you want your family to be able to stay in their home? Do you want your wife to have to go to work and not have time for the kids?
Sure.
So I just that's kind of it's kind of like an emotional type fact finder with that type of question.
Yeah, no, that was good, man. You got my attention, you got Rob's attention with that question too. My eyes got big, man. So let me ask you this, Jesse. How can you say that better? In a very short, precise way, taking what you currently do, how can you take that question to the next level?
Maybe shorten it down because and make it so they know what I'm asking right off the bat instead of having them. Because right now I ask the initial question and I wait for them to say, what do you mean, and then clarify. Sure.
So how can you ask that question where they know exactly what you mean and they're like, man, that's deep, but then they give you that response without the extra clarification?
Yeah, I don't know how I can really cut that out. without it kind of seems like a two-step question to me. I can't really see how I'd cut that out.
Sure. So what was your initial question for calling in?
So my question is, after hearing that, my fact-finding question, in our local paper, there's a bunch of people that just have had babies, that like they've just had a child, and it's in the newspaper, and I reach out to them on Facebook, and I just congratulate them first of all, and then I don't really know how to take that second step into asking for their business and getting them in for the life insurance part.
Sure.
I don't really know how to blend it. I mean, it'd be a really weird question to ask over Facebook. So,
yeah, no, this is a very interesting business model.
Yeah.
Is there a manager that told you to do this, to use that newspaper approach, or is this something that you're kind of pioneering for the first time?
It's something that I'm kind of pioneering for the first time. I haven't really heard of many people doing it, but
sure.
I wanted to try it out, and it's
sure. So it's essentially a cold call via Facebook.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool, man. Well, I would take a look at the cold call when you get a chance to take a look at the cold call section. I know you it seems like you just got access to the program, but there's some good content here in the cold calling section, the cold calling basics, the cold call process. It's still a cold call, but you're not making a call. It's a cold message. So you apply the same principles. Okay. Obviously, you're not going to be speaking these words, but you can type out a good message from these cold calling basics and the cold call process as well.
Okay.
Cool.
Perfect.
So make sure to dive into those programs, kind of fast forward, if you will. So follow your daily training path and maybe skip ahead a little bit to these sections here to solve an immediate problem for yourself.
Okay, I'll do that. Thanks a lot.
Cool, man. Thank you so much for calling in. All right, excellent. So I don't want to spend too much time here on this fact-finding thing. I think the main point is, what do you currently have in your arsenal? Do you have an arsenal? Are you consistent with the arsenal? And how can you take that arsenal to the next step? So that's going to be your assignments here for the fact-finding piece. And the last thing, just to kind of wrap up here for today, is if we talk about the trial close. So we've gone from the meet and greet, maybe handled one or two objections in the greeting. We fact-found the client already. We know why they're here. We know why they're talking to us. And we've presented the solution. And you've basically gone on to puke for maybe 20, 30 minutes about the product. The last product I was selling was Cutco knives, so this is probably the part which was like the longest part of the presentation, and you're basically on fire. You're jamming them. You're basically hitting them with all kinds of bullet points, the company information, the product, the price, all these reasons they should buy, and you've gone on for 20 minutes, and now you're out of ammo, and now you get to this part where you're like, okay, so do you want to buy or what? And then at this point, you're basically the trial close. The purpose of the trial close, for those of you guys who might be new to the trial close or might be just wrapping your heads around it for the first time, the trial close is where you just make sure that what you're discussing is the right subject. Rob, have you ever done a deal where you're talking to a guy about something and you go on for 10 minutes and then at the end of it, he's like, yeah, I'm not interested?
Yeah. Yeah, early on. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, hey, that's not what I'm looking for.
I sprinkle it as I do the presentation now.
Exactly.
'Cause I don't want to go 30 minutes. I don't want to present for 30 minutes and have the guy be like, yeah, I don't want to do it. It's like, okay, cool. So like, during it, it's like, have you heard enough to make a decision today?
Yep, those little trial close.
Have you heard enough?
Yeah, we're just checking the temperature. Is this the right product? Are we on the same page, right? Am I the only one that's excited, or are you excited too?
Do you understand what I'm telling you right now?
Yeah, man. What do you like best? This is the go-to one. If you ever walk, if you spent one day in Grant Cardone's office in our sales room, the question that you would hear all the time, our go-to magic question, what do you like best about what you've heard so far? And then it gets these guys puking. Oh, well, I like the reporting. I like the accountability. I like the short little video segments. And then they just start hitting on everything that they enjoyed. You've talked about 20 things, and now they get a chance to tell you, okay, these are the 2 things that are really important to me. Those other 18 items are cool. These 2 things is the main things that really pique my interest. Mm-hmm. And with those 2 things, that is what you're going to use to close this deal. Mm-hmm. You're going to lock onto those 2 things and use that to justify the investment. Mm-hmm. What do you like best about what you've heard so far? If you're dealing with multiple decision makers, you've got a husband and a wife. You ask the wife, what do you like best about what you've seen so far? Blah, 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 blah. Excellent. What do you think your husband would like best about the product? well, he'd probably like the fact that it's got a guarantee, and he'd probably like the fact that it's on sale. He'd probably like the fact that, and now she's coming up with reasons, because if this guy's not in the picture, now she's starting to come up with reasons on why he could make sense of the investment from her perspective. So what do you like best about the product, and what does the other influencer like best about what I've shown so far? Another funny question, or another trial close. Rob, what's your other backup trial close?
Backup trial close.
Do you have one?
Yeah, it usually falls under the fact of can you see yourself using this over the next 6 months?
Yeah.
Can you see this working for you?
Yep.
Do you think this will work for you?
Yep.
Is this something that you're looking for? It's everything, because in my head, I'm like, I need this guy to close.
Yep.
So I need to know if I need to go back and sell more.
Yep.
I need to know if I need to ask him right now for business, which I probably will anyway.
Yep.
But it just lets me know, okay, he's sold, good, I can move to a close.
Perfect.
He's not sold, great, I can move back and show him other features of the product.
There it is. The trial close is going to tell you, okay, move into the close and start shutting this deal down. Or if he's like, yeah, I'm still kind of on the fence, then you need to go show him something sexy that he hadn't seen yet.
Right.
I'm glad you're not sold yet, because actually I haven't even shown you the best part yet.
Or it's something that they don't understand.
Yeah,
You're
exactly.
like, we got a thing going on right now, and it's like the guys. I just have to go back and show him something that he doesn't fully understand right now.
Because he doesn't see what we see.
Yeah,
If he doesn't see what you see, then you're going to need to do a lot more selling at this point. The last thing here on this trial close, the end result of a trial close is it's going to tell you when to move on to the next step. The trial close is this little bridge between selling and closing. Grant always talks about selling is completely different from closing. It's like speaking English and Spanish. And a lot of people that are classified as sales people, sometimes they don't know the difference. You could be a great salesperson and still be broke because you're great at talking, but that skill of closing, Grant says this all the time, nobody is born a great closer. You could be born a great salesperson, which means you're great at talking to people. You got the gift of gab and you blah, 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 blah. But I'm sure everybody on this call knows people that are great at doing this and they can't pay their bills. Mm-hmm. They're great at this, and all of a sudden they're like, man, how did I just get overdrafted? I'm such a great salesperson, but there's no money in the bank. It's because there's some closing tactics that need to be mastered from the closing program. And this little trial close, it's like the cartilage in between the bones to keep it all lubed up and making sure everything's fine. So it's that little cushion between, okay, you're done selling and let's start closing if you get these positive indicators. So